So you're running ops at a growing agency, and you're in that constant battle for margin. You already know automation is the key, but the big question is always, where on earth do you start? Well, let's cut through all the noise. We're about to walk through a practical, no-nonsense guide to get your first big automation win and see a real return on that investment, fast.
And this quote right here, it absolutely nails the central problem. There's this huge pressure to automate everything, but that fear of shipping something that just breaks is so real. It's a classic trap, and honestly, it paralyzes a lot of agencies before they even get started.
And you know, this paralysis, it leads to one of two really painful places. On one side, you've got zero automation. That's where you're just bleeding cash, paying smart, creative people to do robotic copy-paste work. Then on the other side, there's Automation Hubris. You've built this massive, tangled system that's always breaking, and worse, your team has zero trust in it. If any of that sounds familiar, you are in the right place.
So how do we get out of this mess? We use a really powerful tactic called the Beachhead Strategy. The idea is actually super simple. Instead of trying to win the whole war at once, we secure one small, strategic, high-impact victory first. This first win is what builds momentum, and, this is the most important part, it builds trust.
Okay, but how do you pick that first beachhead? I mean, when you can connect thousands of different apps, the number of possibilities can be paralyzing. That's why we need a way to just cut through the noise, the 3-3-3 Enterprise Selection Rule. It's a framework designed specifically to help you pinpoint that perfect first project.
So how does it work? It's brilliantly simple. It's just 3 steps. First, you identify 3 places where your team is just hemorrhaging time on mind-numbing tasks. Second, you isolate 3 workflows that are closest to making money. We're talking things like speed to lead or client onboarding. And third, you enforce 3 really strict constraints to make sure your first build is simple and solid.
And those constraints? This part is all about discipline. For your first build, do not buy new software. Seriously, use the tools and the APIs you already have. Keep the process to 5 core steps or fewer, and this is critical. You have to be able to test the entire thing, end to end, in less than an hour. Simplicity is your secret weapon for getting that first win.
All right, so you've used the 3-3-3 rule. You've picked your target, but hold on. You don't just jump in and start building. The single most critical step comes next, mapping the workflow. And for that, we use a deceptively simple tool called the Event Action Outcome Map. The EAO map is just a single, strict sentence, but it forces you to define in plain English exactly what your automation does. When this specific event happens in this tool, automatically take this action so that this measurable outcome is guaranteed. Look, if you can't write this sentence, your idea isn't clear enough to build, period. And this slide right here is the perfect example of the difference between a vague idea and a real plan. On the left, you've got this muddled thought, when we get a lead, we'll put it in the CRM. It's useless. But on the right, you have a clear architectural blueprint. It's specific. It names the tools, the trigger, the action, and the measurable outcome. That is something an engineer can actually build.
Okay, theory's great. Now let's put this into practice with a perfect blueprint for any agency, the Zero-Friction Client Onboarding Engine. This is consistently one of the absolute highest value automations you can build first.
And why is this one so critical? Because that moment a client signs a contract, that's when they are most excited, and it's also when they are most vulnerable to buyer's remorse. A slow, manual, clunky onboarding process just creates friction and doubt right when you need to be building confidence. So here it is, the EAO map for our blueprint. The event, a deal is marked closed won in your CRM. The action, instantly create all their folders, project boards, and send the welcome email. And the outcome, the client gets a seamless professional onboarding experience in under 60 seconds. I mean, how powerful is that? And here's what's actually happening under the hood. The trigger is a webhook from your CRM. Just think of it like a digital flare gun that fires the second a deal is won. That signal kicks off step 2, using the Google Workspace API to create a client folder. Step 3 uses another API to automatically set up a project board in a tool like Monday.com. And finally, step 4 sends that personalized welcome email with all their new links. It's just a beautiful, clean, logical chain reaction. So you've selected it, you've mapped it, you've built it. Now comes the part that makes everyone's palms sweat, launching it without breaking anything. This is where a lot of teams stumble, but there is a professional, low-risk way to deploy. I mean, this is the big question, right?
The very last thing you want is for your brilliant new system to create total chaos for your team, or, even worse, for a brand new client.
The answer is a strategy called shadowing. You don't just flip a switch and pray. Instead, you turn the new automation on to run silently in the background while your team keeps doing the process manually exactly like they always have. It's a parallel test, but in a live environment.
And you do this for a mandatory, and I mean non-negotiable period of 48 hours. That gives you enough time and enough real-world data to see if the automation is performing exactly like it's supposed to, catching every single case with 0 errors.
The process is super straightforward. Step 1, you turn on the workflow. Step 2, your team continues their normal manual process for 2 full days. Step 3, at the end of that 48 hours, you compare what the automation did directly against what the human did. And then comes the most important rule of all. In step 4, you only turn off the manual process after you've confirmed a 100% perfect match. Not 99%, 100%, no exceptions.
All right, we have covered the strategy, the mapping, the blueprint, and the safe launch. Now it's time to turn all this theory into action. This is your mandate for what to do the second this explainer's over.
Remember this, theory is absolutely useless without execution. The goal here is not to create some massive, year-long roadmap that you'll never start. The goal is to get that first single beachhead win. So, you need to pick exactly one process.
So here's your checklist for today. First, run your agency's biggest bottlenecks through that 3-3-3 selection rule. Second, choose just one of them to tackle. And client onboarding is a fantastic place to start. And third, take out an actual piece of paper, a sticky note, whatever, and write down its single-sentence EAO map.
And that's the final thought I really want to leave you with. Forget the grand 5-year plan for just a minute. Based on everything we've just walked through, what is the one, single, high-impact process that you are going to map out today?